Hey everyone, we're live again here in Nourish, Heal, and Thrive. I'm really excited today. I am bringing you Alex Neal. She is a women's empowerment coach, and I'm really excited to be here. I had a chat with her like last week, I think it was, and we had
Yeah.
a great conversation in her group. So I've invited her to talk in my group, and I think everyone here would really benefit. Alex, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. This is fun.
So why don't we start with the typical who you are, where you're from, what you do, that whole thing.
All right. So I'm Alex Neal. I am a Frenchie transplanted to New Jersey, and I am a women's empowerment coach. And what I do is I support women who are coming out of either a divorce or a long-term relationship. So basically, women who find themselves newly single, and I help them to rediscover their authentic selves. I help them to recraft their identity and rebuild their life on their terms, so that they can feel fulfilled and attract their forever love. And I do that because when I came out of my divorce, I had no idea who I was or what I wanted. And that began my personal development journey. And I figure if I can cut somebody's learning curve or somebody's uh, personal development curve, then I'm happy to be able to do that for them.
That's amazing, and it's really great because here in Nourish, Heal, and Thrive, we're about creating better health and losing weight and just overall health and feeling better. And what I've learned actually from doing some of these interviews is as people progress and they take this new journey, a lot of them split up with their partners. It's really sad and surprising. I didn't realize that was happening to so many people, but since it is happening, I think you could really help a lot of the women in this group. How do you feel like that's like do people like on these health journeys tend to come to you or who's your typical client?
So my typical client really is a woman who finds herself alone after a relationship, whether she chose to leave or she was thrust upon. You're right, the departure was kind of not on her terms. Um, but what I do find is that when you're in a partnership and you start to grow and you start to develop, if your partner is not willing or able to be on that journey for themselves, um, then if there is any kind of a gap, the gap just kind of widens and the people grow apart because one wants to continue to level up themselves. And when you do that, it's very hard. You don't want to drag anybody with you, right? You want people to come along because you love them and you value them and you want to take that journey with them. But if they're not ready for that, they're not ready, right? They have to be willing to embark on that journey on their own. So it happens. Unfortunately, um, I know people that were together for years who were both in personal development, and they still ended up going their own way because it just one of the things that I found with my new honey, so 13 years now that we've been together, um, is that, I have my development journey, he has his development journey, and we have our journey together as a couple. And you need kind of all three to really keep moving forward in the directions together.
Yeah, that's so true. So how do couples that want to stay together create this separate journey and together journey?
Well, for this, the separate journey, I think, is just getting to know you, right? Getting to know who you are, knowing what you want, understanding kind of what you want your life path to be and who you want to grow into so that you can continue to feel fulfilled. The together journey really is with the two people being willing to be vulnerable with each other, being willing to have each other's back, being willing to support each other along the way and not take things personally. One of the things that I think is wonderful about what I have now is that whereas before, first of all, I wasn't on any kind of a growth journey because I didn't even know that was a thing. And when my former husband and I split up, only then did I begin this journey of personal development. One of the things that is great here is that we know that even if we have to say something difficult to each other, we don't take it personally because we know that we each other have the other's best interest at heart. So it's never meant as a dig, it's never done in an aggressive way. We, I don't think we've ever said something to each other in an argument that we've ever regretted because we're not here to, we don't want to hurt each other, right? We love each other and we want to make sure that that transcends anything else that's going on, whatever stories are going on, whatever BS is going on, that is always center stage. And one of the things that we started doing recently is we go on retreats quarterly and we'll take 3, 4 days. And the first couple days, we each work on our stuff. The third and fourth days, we kind of come together and talk about what's working, what's not working. What do I do that pisses you off? Where do I need to do things differently and things like that? And it's allowed us to kind of really stay super connected in terms of where we're going in our couples, you know, as a couple and in our couples goals. So that's been working really, really well.
I love that. Is that like something you, when you take these retreats, are they you go places or do
Oh yeah.
you go or you take time off from each other?
No, no, no. We go to different places. Like we've gone to Atlantic City, we've gone to New York, and you know, we'll I'll take some time. I'll go somewhere and work on my stuff. He'll do the same on his end. We meet up for dinner, and then over the course of the next few days, we'll, do our thing, come back, connect, come back, and yeah, it's been a lot of fun. Plus, it gives us like 4-day weekend somewhere. Who doesn't want that?
Yeah, sounds amazing. So, Alex, tell us a little bit more about your story and how you started this whole thing. I know you said you got in a divorce and but just I think other people would really want to hear how this what was that moment that you said, okay, this is what I'm going to do.
Well, the first moment was making the decision to leave, which is not an easy decision to make. I've had people say, well, people get divorced too easily these days and they don't stick around and, anything gets hard and they leave. And it's like, there may be cases like that, but nobody goes into a relationship thinking, well, if this doesn't work out, I'll just get divorced, right? Then what's the point of getting married? Um, but I remember very distinctly, I was having yet another argument with my former husband. And this little voice in the back of my head said, I don't like who you are when you're with him. And that was my flip. That was my switch. That was like, okay, I'm done. Doesn't mean that I left right away. I still, even after that moment, I still tried to make it work. I still wanted to look for ways that we could come together and come to agreements and everything else. And we just never got there. And I had to grieve, not just what I had lost, but the things that would never happen. Like I had to grieve not having children. I'm, 50, going to be 56 this year. Children just aren't in the cards for me. And, so you grieve the dreams that you had that are not gonna come to be. Um, but at some point, it's like, okay, you know, when you're done with it was all his fault and I did everything I could to save the marriage, right? You come to the moment where you're like, well, maybe I had a little something to do with why this thing went sideways. And and that's kind of what started my journey was, realizing that I wasn't alone in this. And yeah, things didn't go the way that I wanted. And yeah, there was a whole lot of stuff that was wrong with him, right? But there is a whole lot of stuff that was wrong with me as well, right? Patterns, limiting beliefs, role modeling, all those things that I carried into the marriage that I realized were um, just things that just kept repeating. And I was like, I don't want to do this again. If I get into another relationship and I want that relationship to be loving, caring, respectful, open, transparent, I gotta figure out how to speak my needs. I have to remember that I am a whole person in this marriage, that the fact that I'm married doesn't make me disappear. Because the pattern that I had was learned from my mom, who's totally awesome, but she devoted her life to her husband and her children. And she always came second, if not third, if not fourth. And that's what I learned. That's what I brought to the relationship. It was my husband first, our business, our life together. And somewhere in there, I got lost. And I had to, when I came out, really figure out who did I want to be for this next chapter of my life. And that's the journey. And I think at some point when we come out of a relationship, whether it's a divorce or a long-term relationship or whatever, we have to think about how did the, how did this go? What was good that I want to do again, that I want to keep? What could I improve on? And what is something that I definitely don't want to bring into the next relationship so that I increase my chances of my next relationship being my ideal, my ideal relationship. So there's that whole inner work that needs to happen so that we can be at ease with who we are within the relationship and not forget that we're also a power player in that relationship.
Yeah, so let's talk about some of that inner work. Is that something that you help people with, or what's it like to work with you?
So I work on either 12 or 24 weeks, so 3 months or 6 months, depending on where women are in their journey. And every session that we have has a specific outcome. So we have different topics that we talk about, and it kind of takes them on a journey of, um, from basically from surviving to really rising and shining. So we'll talk about topics like um, clarity, we'll talk about influence, we'll talk about things like control or fear, and all of those topics that really kind of when you put them all together, the objective is really to take them on that journey to get them reconnected with who they are. And that doesn't mean reconnected to who they were before they got married. That means reconnected with who they are today. So they're strong in their conviction, in their values, and in their and understanding what their value is, so that from here they can really move forward. And if they want to get into a new relationship, then they're secure about themselves. So they're not dependent on somebody else's love to feel their worth. So that's what we do over the course of, 3 to 6 months.
Wow, I love that. It's amazing. Um,
It's a lot of fun.
yeah. So really glad you were here and so happy you took the time to be with us. Is there any last shares you have? Anything you want to leave the group with?
I think anyone that's coming out of a long-term relationship, men or women, doesn't matter. Just be okay being alone and getting in touch with yourselves, getting to know you really well, because that's going to be the foundation that is going to sustain a new relationship, if that's what you want. And if you'd rather be on your own, then you're going to have a heck of a lot of fun because you're going to know exactly who you are and what you want. Can't go wrong. Either way, you can't go wrong.
Great, that's amazing. So thank you so much. If you're watching this, whether you're here live or watching the replay, this is all here for you. If you want to get in touch with Alex, she's going to put her information in the comments. So she'll give you all the ways you can connect with her. She has a Facebook group, The Awakened Heroine, and if you want to speak with her privately, she'll give you all that information. And if you like what we're doing here in Nourish, Heal, and Thrive, and you want to be interviewed too, comment interview, and we'll schedule a time where we can meet you. You can share your wins, and or if you're struggling and you need some extra help, we can go through that too. So we want to hear everybody's story because your story really helps everybody else. So thank you so much again, Alex, and thanks everybody for watching.
Thank you for having me.